and I can't address your chat, so apologies for that. But this is the Sunday Kaffee misspelled in the description. Welcome to the program. And we're going to talk about refugee questions today, some issues that come up, other topics. But again, I can't answer your questions. I'll be staying overnight rather than coming all the way back. Tomorrow's a busy day. Trying to secure a meeting, set up to give an award for a young man who won a coloring contest for the VFW. I need to set up a polling station tomorrow evening. I've got a conference call at 3 p.m. plus my show. On the way back, I'll need to top off because I'm going to need petrol. And there's lots going on, and they're prepping for the election. Still waiting for the slides that were promised to me by the county so I can make a cheat sheet for my poll workers so that they know what or how to use these poll pads that we're using. Anyway, folks, so some refugee things. Number one, once again, South African media seem to be obsessed with white people and demonizing white people, and they're also not very bright. They think that everybody who's white from South Africa apparently is an Afrikaner. I've had to disabuse the media of that notion yet again this weekend. A story appearing in the South African said that an Afrikaner baby, no such thing. The baby was born to English-speaking South Africans who don't have Afrikaner ancestry, and the baby was born here in America, and it's not a refugee baby. Being born in America makes you an American citizen, or the current interpretation of the 14th Amendment. So you could say that the child is the offspring of South African refugees. That would be true, but you can't say it's a refugee baby because there's no such thing. The baby was born here legally, and those born in this country legally are U.S. citizens. Now, we're disputing the notion that criminal alien invaders who invade our country and drop their babies with their anchor babies are citizens, and they're not. And hopefully the 14th Amendment will be applied correctly when the U.S. Supreme Court makes decisions soon. Hoping that's the case. We can't guarantee that. Nonetheless, here it is, Sunday, May 17th, 2026. All right, so more cases cropping up in South Africans who are not getting the best of care. I see other people now glomming onto this story and interviewing people. I find it fascinating. This story, other people, that's fine. People want to expose the story, that's on them, that's their prerogative. But I don't see many people trying to solve anybody's problems. ORR is trying to help solve some of these problems. I am helping solve some of these problems. Antonette's group, the South African women's group, men, is also doing a great job helping people. They've really gone out of their way to help people over the past year who've arrived in the United States. There is a serious systemic flaw with this system. And I do not understand how these refugee agencies that are allowing people to receive eviction notices because they didn't pay the rent with the grant money that belongs to the refugee, how they allow such things to happen unless it's incompetence, bigotry, or racism. It's the only thing that makes sense. This has happened on several occasions now. We've had people told they're going to be evicted. So I've told these people, if this happens to you, come on the channel. We will expose these refugee agencies that are doing this. I see now that after years of railing against the system of the shadow banning, that other people are suddenly starting to take notice of what's happening in South Africa, and I'm glad they are. 2CTV, who considers himself an expert on Iran, he's pretty smart on Iran, wouldn't say an expert because he pretends to know about U.S. foreign policy. He doesn't, but he certainly knows about Iran. But 2CTV now is going to go to South Africa to expose the situation in South Africa. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. You've got a lot of viewers because you're not shadow banned. But those of us who are shadow banned have been railing for years about this and reporting this stuff for years. There's a cop trying to be speeding tickets. Good thing I'm going to speed limit. Yep, on a Sunday. It's just sitting right there trying to get people tickets. Yep, and that's a good spot for it too. Make sure he's pulling out. Nope, he's still sitting there. But then I'm not speeding, so I'm okay. Anyway, but everyone in front of him was speeding. All the people in front of him are going fast. That's why I was looking to see if he pulled out to get one of them. But now he just let them go. They're all going fast, and he just let them go. Anyway, so refugee things. So, again, I'm on my way back to Maryland for another visit today. I suspect I might run into a few of the South Africans whom I met before, the new recent arrivals. It'd be nice if I could see them again. Well, folks, the answer to your issue here is there is a button to push if you've got a problem in America as a South African arrival or refugee, if it's related to your case. Now, if it's something that happens to you in America, that's not ORR's responsibility. If you're in a traffic accident, that's not ORR's responsibility. If you have a dispute with your medical provider, that's not ORR's responsibility. If you're having a problem with your landlord, that's not ORR's responsibility. These are local issues you have to solve on your own. Now, your case officer may be able to help in some of these cases. The Office of Refugee Resettlement is here to resettle you, not to nanny you into perpetuity. Now, I'm not telling anybody expecting to be nanny, is that you have to understand what they're there for. I've had a few people who sent complaints into ORR, and they either sent it to me after the fact or they courtesy me an email, and thank you for that. But you're not listening to what I said. My meeting with the Director of Office of Refugee Resettlement was about the complaint line for issues here. But people are sending messages complaining about family members being stuck in South Africa. ORR has no visibility, no responsibility, no control over that process whatsoever. You are pissing into the wind, and you should be careful because when you piss in the wind, if the wind changes direction, it just blows back all over your legs. So you don't want to piss into the wind when it comes to this topic. ORR is not there to solve those issues. ORR is there to solve issues, but that's not an issue. They have no control over what USCIS and or RFC do in South Africa. That's up to the U.S. government's other branches. So not ORR. So make sure you understand that and you're straight on that, because just because someone provided a outlet for people with complaints doesn't mean that it's for everyone to send their complaints in. It has to be an appropriate complaint. And I did warn people about this in my video, but apparently it fell on deaf ears. So LISTA, that complaint mechanism is for issues that ORR has oversight. So if you are running into trouble with your case officer and it's a legitimate concern, that's what that complaint email is for. If you can't get your resources out of your agency, if they're hoarding your money and you're in trouble, and you feel they're hoarding it, then that's who you contact, ORR, Office of Refugee Resettlement, through that email. But it is not there because, someone didn't pick you up and take you to the clinic, this, that, and the other. These are things that you have to handle locally. Some of these complaints are legitimate. They're serious, and they're serious breaches of responsibility and contractual obligations not being fulfilled by these agencies, 100%. But there's also some serious Karen behavior going on amongst a small number of people. And that Karen behavior takes away from everyone who needs actual help. So, we had Alan earlier talk about, because this unique case, he's got American ancestors, if I remember correctly. And so he had a hard time getting sorted out in his view. He had to answer a lot of questions. His process took over a year, and he kept talking about how he was banned and he'd forgotten. But he's here. He's here. Is it Alan or was it Ian? Anyway, but he's here, and he got here, 18 days ago. Again, unless you've done something wrong, your case is being adjudicated. All this talk about forgotten cases and people trying to manipulate the system, it's not going to help you in the end. Not going to help you in the end. Now let me address those considering going back. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're in a refugee program to come to America and you're talking about going back to South Africa, then what the hell were you doing in the refugee program? I mean, I don't get people going back except for the family had a death in the family or an ill parent. I got that. That makes sense. And I don't know that they may be coming back to America and just be given permission to go back for those events. But for the people that, it's too hard here, I don't have any friends here, what exactly did you think this was going to be? A walk in the park? A cakewalk? This is not a vacation. This is not destination shopping. This is not, my chance to immigrate. No, it's not your chance to immigrate or to emigrate out of South Africa. This is for people suffering from racial persecution. And South Africa's laws alone. But that's me. I'm not the adjudicator, so who knows? Now, let's talk about an issue that's coming up that people need to know about, okay? Let's talk about an issue that, I can see that a lot less people are here today than we normally have in the Kaffee Klatsch. I don't know if that's because I'm mobile or because someone else is broadcasting this time, but usually we have 400 or 500 people. We have 180 people here. So I'm not sure, but let's talk about another issue here. So the cap issue that people have been worried about for a long time. I told people not to worry about the cap for several reasons. Number one, I don't think they'll adhere to the cap. I figured they'd find a way around it. There are mechanisms around it if they're serious about this program. That remains to be seen. We don't know that the Trump administration is serious. We have to wait and see. Another reason I said is by the time we get to the cap at the slow pace that we've been going, less than $1,500 per month, we will be most of the way through the year. We are now most of the way through this fiscal year. It is mid-May, 17th, mid-May. So you've got June, July, August, and September, 4 months. So nearly 2/3 of the year is gone. Only 1/3 of the fiscal year remains. And so they're still sending people right now, to my knowledge. So let's say they send people through the end of May. That means there's 4 months left. And we'll say we hit the cap, okay? Then if they don't get the cap increase, which in their interview with 4 humanitarian settlements, which is possible, let's say the cap is in effect. So then no one else comes over. I don't know where we're at. We should have reached it. But I think what might be happening is one of a few different things. And I've talked about this already. Oh, dead deer. Somebody hit a deer back there. It was a young one too. So either they've gone through the cap and they're going past it and ignoring it, which is possible, but I don't think that's the case. Or they're still sending people over, but the number of people coming over every day is much slower than it has been because I'm still increased. I'm not sure what's going to happen. Signal is what? Is bad. No, my signal is pretty good here. Maybe that's why we have a slow audience. I'm on a mobile network, folks. Hope you realize that. Okay? So I'm on a mobile network. So anyway, but I don't see any break up here. So sorry for that. So that's the deal with the cap. If there's going to be a cap, we'll see. You know, when you're traveling at 65 miles an hour down a highway using mobile networks, switching from tower to tower, that tends to happen from time to time. So I'm approaching the Maryland state line. I'll be in Maryland in a few more minutes. In fact, I think the slowdown comes about a quarter of a mile ahead is when I have to start slowing down because the speed limit drops. Yeah, there it is down here. So we'll find out with the June report if we've achieved the 7,000 of the 7,500. Or maybe they go beyond that and actually let South Africans take over some of the slots, the 500 they reserve for the rest of the world. I don't know, because no one else has come over. No one else has filled those 500 slots. So in theory, it was 7,500. They could go till they hit 7,500. I don't know. I just know what the government announced. The government announced that they were going to have a cap of 7,500, 500 for the rest of the world, 700 or 7,000 for South Africa this fiscal year. But we're very close to that. We're, you know, over 6,000 last month. So we're within 900 of passing that in May. So I'm not sure what the situation is. But again, I told people not to worry about the cap. Remember, the biggest reason I told you not to worry about the cap, you have no control over it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You can do nothing about it. If you're not here and we reach the cap and no one else comes over, then no one else comes over until the new fiscal year. And so there you go. And I suspect in the new fiscal year, we'll probably see a number a lot higher. I'm just taking a wild stab, maybe 35,000. We'll see. If Trump wants to send a political signal, he'll make that much higher than that. We've taken it over 125,000 in the past, and we've taken lots of Afghans and, whoa, bird flew right over me. Lots of Afghans and lots of, I've just hit the Maryland state line. I'm in Maryland now. Lots of Afghans and lots of Ukrainians in short order. So you never know what's going to happen. So still got about 50 miles, 80 kilometers to go. Excuse me. So we'll see how long it takes me to get there now. Hopefully the signal stays strong in this part. How are we doing out there? Okay. Program in February 2020. Is that James? I can't see. Yeah, there's a lot of people in that boat who started last year and still not over. A lot of people started in March, April, May, June, July, August. Guys, I mean, I think a lot of people, this is not directed to you, I think an awful lot of people seem to think that they're the only ones. Again, not directed to you. They're the only ones. Like, well, because I got in first, I get to go here. Well, lots of people got in first. Remember, this program was all screwed up from my perspective, the way they managed this early on. So getting in first didn't mean a whole lot of anything, did it? I mean, my friend who was in the 100 proof of concept flew to Pretoria in February last year. Never heard from anybody until February 19th this year. And then waited 9 weeks after February 19th, 9 weeks before he got to the States. So now he's been in America a little under 3 weeks. And yeah, so yeah. Anyway, not to dismiss anybody's concerns, but my point is that people get over here. Alan just got here. He was a February last year guy with PRM email. So it happens. It does happen. I'm trying to make sure I don't get a speeding ticket here because I had to go a little faster to pass this car. Tennessee license plates. People are behaving the speed limit much better here in Maryland for the moment. When I get down near Frederick, they won't. They'll all be speeding down there. But up here, got to be careful. Don't want to speed, but these people kind of clamped in together tight here. Tennessee license plates, Virginia license plates. This is a major byway to get in and around this part of the country, Atlantic coast. So bunched up right against the mountains here. So let me get over here real quickly. All right, there we go. Anyway, so yeah. So the cap, that's a major question. I think people shouldn't worry about it, but we should certainly have questions about what's going on with the cap. Is the cap for real? What's going to happen with the cap? And we won't know for sure anything concrete until June 5th. And then we might be guessing. We might be guessing about what's going on, you know? Again, I told people from the very outset that this is a long process. You shouldn't expect to come over quickly. And in a normal situation where people in refugee camps, it takes 18 months or even longer, sometimes years for people to get over here. So that's why my advice has always been to South Africans to continue your life, folks. Continue your life. Put your application in. Now there are applications with the intake questionnaire. Answer their questions. When they call you, make yourself available. Give them what documents they ask for. Be honest and continue your job. Continue your work. Continue your life. Continue planting. Continue harvesting. Continue sending your kids to school. So many people make unwise decisions that become refugees and then put themselves in a serious bind. We've been feeding a lot of people that we shouldn't be feeding recently because they put themselves in a bind. Normally, I don't do that. Normally, we reserve that for the people who are screwed over by the U.S. government. But there are some people that have put themselves in a self-generated bind, and it's just not wise. No one told anyone. I don't want people. Some people in this program act like, oh, it's a refugee program. All right, here, I put my PRM email. I'm leaving next week. Some people treated it, and that was foolish. I never encouraged anyone in that way. In fact, I discouraged people from that for the longest time. But some people just do that, and I don't understand it. I mean, let me ask this question. For those of you who did something like that, would you have applied to move to Australia and then sold your house and sold your car and be ready to go to Australia just waiting for them to tell you it was okay to come? I don't get that, because no one's ever told anyone that you're going to get over here right away, that the program is going to approve you, or that you're going to make it here tomorrow or next week, or that no one's ever said that. The only thing that's ever happened, and this is another thing, and some people don't read these messages fully. I've seen the messages. In 2 to 4 weeks, you'll be leaving. Well, I've warned people. From those emails came out from RSC that don't pay any attention to that. It means you could leave in 2 to 4 weeks. But we actually have people leave quicker than that. But most people leave long after that 2 to 4 week period. So don't get yourself in that bind. So is that a cop? No, it's people crossing the road. Anyway, this is a beautiful drive, by the way. You don't know where I'm at, but I'm on US 15, which is in Maryland. Comes from the border of Pennsylvania, runs down to Frederick, then it becomes an interstate. And this is a beautiful spot with the mountain just over here to my right. Beautiful countryside, lots of farms around here. Eventually, it'll probably all be gobbled up by development. So fishing right there in a little pond. Yep, and he's got a nice farm there. But yeah, so anyway, but it's absolutely gorgeous, sunny day. But still, lovely day. Oops, looks like I got disconnected. Sorry about that, folks. Yep, got switched from one tower. It's going to happen here on the road when you're traveling with a mobile. Sorry about that, folks. Don't run off. Understand that I'm on a mobile. It should be obvious. You can tell I'm in the car. So it's just a lot of people following the speed limit today. I think that they're worried the cops might be out, or it's Sunday and nobody's in a rush. But this is absolutely stunning part of the country here. I just love it here. It's, unfortunately, Maryland is run by leftists and they ruin a beautiful state. It's a state that was a safe haven for Catholics originally. That was why it was founded. Lord Baltimore founded Maryland. It was a haven for Catholics escaping from England who were being persecuted there. Kind of like refugees. Except there was no refugee program in the 1700s. But yeah, so they came over here to avoid persecution. Some of them, like people in the Mayflower, some of them, like the Protestants in the Mayflower, they went to the Netherlands, which was Protestant, to avoid persecution because they weren't part of the Church of England. So lots of religious persecution in Europe. Yep. And now they bend over backwards to accommodate Muslims. They allow Muslims to openly desecrate Church of England grounds by praying on Church of England grounds. They allow Muslims to impede traffic, which is a criminal offense, by bowing down and praying. They allow Muslims to, it's shocking for a country that once persecuted Christians to allow this to Muslims. Anyway, so back to the refugee situation. As far as my case, we try to get the message out over and over again to people, but there's more people in the program now and newer people in the program, and people keep navel gazing at that My Case portal. Unless you're told to go to My Case, unless you go there occasionally, like once a week or once every other week, once a month, it really isn't worth your time to be on My Case. My Case portal is a disaster. It is something that you don't understand, and you won't understand it because they're going to be opaque and not tell you. It'll say, completed, then open, then under review. Just ignore all of that. All right. We have people who've come to America whose case is listed as under review, and they're here. We have people who who've come here and it says their medicals aren't completed, but they did complete them and they're in America. So again, that's supposed to be an internal tool. Why they ever shared it with any refugee aspirants, I don't understand. It's created no end of conflict and confusion and anger and angst. And so just, stay away from it as much as you can unless you need to go there. That's my recommendation. That's what I would tell people. So anyway, you can do what you want to do, ladies and gentlemen. That is your prerogative. I'm not going to tell you what you can and can't do. I'm just telling you that if you want to have a less stressful life, you can stay away from my case portal. And also, once you put an application in, you'll continue your life and you go about as if you're doing things you're doing. All right. Now, as far as a lot of the questions I've been getting lately, what about unabridged birth certificates? What about this, that, and the other? These questions have been answered so many times over the past year, and I realize new people pop up. But also, a lot of these questions people can answer for themselves. All right? If you cannot get an unabridged birth certificate, which is something that no one else in the world has, I've never heard of such a thing before, South Africa, then you make a good faith effort. You don't need it to come to America as a refugee. That is a document you need when you apply for a green card after 12 months of continuous residence in the United States. You're supposed to have your birth certificate with your parents' names listed on it, if they're known. A lot of people don't know who their father is. Sad, but true. So if you made a good faith effort, you can show the receipt for when you paid for the service, the date you went someplace, emails showing submission, yada, 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 and your follow-ups on that, then that will be a good faith effort. And they can make exceptions. So it's something people need to quit losing sleep over. I don't understand all this bullshit that keeps coming up about, well, unabridged birth certificates. Why are you still talking about this? I don't understand that. The only people I should be hearing anything about unabridged birth certificates would be somebody who's in the U.S. right now, who's been here for 12 months, which would be a 59er, who doesn't have an unabridged birth certificate with their parents' names on it. Now they're applying for a green card and they need a waiver. That should be the only people worried about this. No one else should be worried about this. I can't apply because, who said you can't apply because you don't have an unabridged birth certificate? That's utter nonsense. There are people applying without passports. Now, it asks for data, but those people are clever. They put down their ID card information and the date it expires. And then when their passport comes in, they go for an interview. They say, oh, I got to correct that. That was the wrong information. Here's the correct information. That's worked for some people. Anyway, but there's a long queue out there, folks. So don't sit around and just wait and wait and wait. People wait for others to do things for them. There's a reason why they're not successful in life. All right, now, waiting for people to do something for you is different than dealing with bureaucracy. That makes sense. All right. So you don't control the bureaucracy, but if you make a good faith effort to get things done, that's all you can do. All right. But a lot of people don't even make good faith efforts. They just think, well, throw their hands up. Oh, let me ask the colonel. Let me ask Press SRG. Let me complain about it in a Facebook group or a WhatsApp group. Well, complaining about it won't solve a problem. And asking Professor G and I might help you get to a solution. But quite frankly, many of these problems people can solve on their own. It really is the case. Now, there are some unusual situations out there with blended families and adoptions and, adult children and taking care of parents who have dementia or Alzheimer's, all kinds of things out there. So, yeah, all kinds of things creeping up. Anyway, yeah. So again, I apologize for not reading your comments, but I am driving and my attention is focused on the road. So you can understand that, right? I think that's fair. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, so I've still got 40 miles to go and I've got 35 minutes, which is my time I said to be there, but it's going to take longer than that to get there, I suspect. Anyway, yeah, so anywho, my next refugee trip. Well, I found out that I could fly to Fort Lauderdale relatively cheaply on Allegiant. If that price stays the same, under $200, then I'll plan a trip to Fort Lauderdale, Miami, sometime in June probably. And that breaks my rule about going to Florida after May. But there's a lot of people down there who claim that they want to see me in that part of the country. So if that's true, I'll work my way down there. And then also the New England trip. So the New England trip, I'm debating about whether flying up there and renting a car or driving. I don't really want to drive that far. It's a long drive. Because either I have to go across New Jersey through New York. Ugh, God, that's horrible traffic. I cannot stand being in that traffic. Or I drive up the Hudson Valley and then into Western Massachusetts. And that's also a long drive. So not as bad the traffic, but still, ugh. Yeah, and I hate the cops in New York because you go 56 and they want to pull you over. And you sneeze and you hit the accelerator and you go 57, they want to pull you over. I'm embellishing. Anyway, 261 people here, folks. Remember, if the signal breaks, it'll catch right back up normally. I am on a mobile network traveling down the highway, so that's going to happen from time to time. All right, just so you understand that. Back to the refugee story here. So we reached in April 6,066 South Africans had come over. Now, 3 of the other 500 were Afghans, so that's 497 others still available, those slots. They might give them to South Africans. I don't know, maybe. Suspect they probably will, but we have no indication of that. Again, the U.S. government is very opaque about this, and with good reason. I understand why they're opaque. I'm not criticizing for being opaque about the numbers and who's coming over or whether they're going to expand the number of refugees come over. That's the U.S. government's prerogative. They do that for operational security reasons, also protect those who want to be refugees. So that all makes sense. My criticisms run for other reasons. Like the gentleman who contacted me, who's out of resources now, who's been waiting for months. He had tickets for January 12th, and he was supposed to go, and he had been telling them all along about his need for oxygen, and apparently, I don't know, he has to have a physician there, or oxygen on the flight, and they didn't listen to him. These people at RSC did not listen, or USCIS, and they programmed him for a flight, and then it came time for him to fly, and he couldn't because he couldn't take the oxygen tank. So his flight was canceled. Now he's been there since January 12th, February, March, April, May. 4 months he's been waiting and no update. That is so wrong. And that should be open to criticism. The man should have been out the next week, like Bruce the service dog and the other toys that got out the next week after that cock up. They had also informed people of all these issues they have. Well, the issue they had was with the service dog. So it's very, very frustrating, ladies and gentlemen, for these sorts of things to be happening when they shouldn't be happening. These are own goals that the U.S. government and its contractors should not be committing. And there are real people who suffer as a consequence. Now, back to the beginning of the story when I first started talking and we were losing signal early. I was talking about how the resources are insufficient, particularly given the fact that although the USCIS stated goal is to get a employment authorization document, an EAD, to each refugee within 30 days, the success rate is spotty. Sometimes it happens, many times it doesn't. Beyond that, the other issue here, ladies and gentlemen, is the Social Security Administration. So many people get here and they struggle to get Social Security numbers. Many get them. My friend got his already, 17 days. He's got Social Security card. He's got an EAD. He had a house to live in and went out and bought a house full of furniture for $120. Used furniture, of course. And his wife has already got a job offer. 17 days they've been here. That includes this weekend. So within 2 weeks of arriving, all that happened to them. All that happened to them in Wisconsin. So, look, it can happen, and that's the way it should happen so that you have a chance to be successful. But this nonsense of making people wait a month or 2 months to get a Social Security number or longer and an EAD, if they can't get that, then they can't get a job. If they can't get a job, then they can't get resources. And then they run out of their grant money, which is insufficient. $2,000 per person, or the correct amount, $2,450 if the agency gives you all that money, is not sufficient. You have to have a deposit. Normally deposits are a few months' rent. But they've been getting lots of exceptions for that. And then you have to pay for rent. It all goes very, very quickly, ladies and gentlemen. And that's the thing. I cannot impress enough upon South Africans who come over here. You do not have 1 minute to waste. You do not have the luxury of pretending or feeling like you're on vacation. You do not have the luxury of letting your hair down, taking a deep breath, and realizing that you're not going to be stabbed or shot or robbed or carjacked. That's all fine and dandy, and that's great. But you don't have time to bask in that glow. You have to hit the ground running. And some of it you have no control over. But the things you can control are how you use your money, any resource you brought with you judiciously, and use thrift shops, Salvation Army, Goodwill stores. Now that spring is here, go to yard sales. You get fantastic stuff. People's yard sales, stuff they want to get rid of, they don't need anymore. You can get also, in addition to that, when it comes, you got to be very judicious and smart about how you buy a car, which is not an easy process, whether you buy a used car or a new car. But the point here is that you've got to be smart about your money because it will not last long. The other thing you've got to divorce yourself of as a refugee is taking dollars and marks and convert, but not marks. I keep saying marks. Rand. You cannot do that. It's not the same thing. Not the same thing. I could eat at McDonald's for $6 in South Africa. Here it's $18 for the same meal. It's unbelievable. The price gouging we've gotten in the past 5 years since Biden became president, and then it dipped briefly, but now it's gone back up a little bit more, is just off the charts. And it's difficult. All these people turn around here. My goodness. This guy pulled out right in front of me here, and he's not even going the speed limit. Wow. Wow. Very dangerous. Stupid people should wear signs. Anyway, now he just achieved a speed limit after I rode my brakes for a quarter mile, and I was going the speed limit. Anyway, lots of election signs up here because it's election season. We've got our primary on Tuesday. I will not have a broadcast on Tuesday. No broadcast, probably no shorts, no nothing, because I'll be busy doing that all day long, like I usually do twice a year. So that's coming up. And that's what's going to prevent me from covering the elections in South Africa in November, which sucks. I'd hope to go to South Africa in November to cover the elections like I did the national elections back in 2024. But unfortunately, Cyril Ramaphosa scheduled the elections one day after ours, which makes it impossible. I won't finish my election work until midnight, and I would have had to have been on the flight the day before. So anyway, that's unfortunate. I really wanted to be there. So I'm going to need somebody to secure posters for me. Nah, I'm just kidding. I got plenty of posters. I cleaned up South African posters last time. I really did. It's 1:30 now, but the traffic will pick up here because it's a Sunday, and lots of people are back towards the District of Columbia who live in Pennsylvania or live in Maryland. Yeah. Yeah, don't get off this road. It's the same road. So a lot of people live in Maryland, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and work in D.C. They usually have an apartment in Alexandria or something like that, where they stay during the week and then they go home on the weekends. So you get all this weekend traffic. It's crazy.
After 1,000 feet, continue straight, US 15.
Yeah, well, there's nowhere for me to get off after 1,000 feet. That's a road merging with me. Pretty silly.
Continue straight.
Yeah, thank you, sweetheart. Appreciate the advice, but I know where I'm going. Anyway, thank you. You're not? Okay. I think she's finished for the moment. Anyway, back to this. So with refugees, you got to be really smart. Your money will go very, very fast. You know, I know somebody that went to Five Guys and they got a burger, and they're like, that burger was like $10. So that's like 170 Rand for a burger. I'm like, yep. Oh, that's a lot of money. Yep. Stop pricing in Rand. You don't get paid in Rand here. The money you get doesn't come in Rand. So you got to do stuff in dollars. Also got to be careful going, oh, it's only $30. Only $30, folks. Yeah. Okay. Yep. It's almost 500 Rand. $30. Okay. Yeah, you're thinking it's a lower number, so it's not that much. It is a lot. So it's an adjustment. It's one you have to make. But I mean, if you've traveled abroad, you get it. You know that when you, okay, here we always have a slowdown here, and here it comes. I do not understand why there's always a cock up and people jam up here. So I have to slow down and crawl for the next few miles. This stretch is such a mess for 20 years now. Just too many people here in Frederick, Maryland. It's out of control. And I don't understand why. These people just don't pay attention. They jam up. I get lots of traffic. It's like clogging an artery. But here, people just, it's just this section, they just don't pay attention. So you look at me, I'm paying attention. Look at my rearview mirror, side mirror, ahead of myself. Anyway, but now I'm slowing down to a crawl. Anyway. Oh, I hate this part of the drive. It used to be so lovely to come here. All these damn people moved here. Frederick used to be a nice town, but now all these people moved in and built all these places, and the traffic is out of control. And anyway, so how we doing? 259 people. So Kaffee, Klatsch, we've been doing for a long time now. I don't think, has it been a year since we started? I can't remember when we first started doing it, but it has been a while. And it's supposed to be every week, but it isn't every week. I don't do it every week. So I try to, but it isn't possible every week. So I'm going literally 15 kilometers an hour right now. Yep. As we say in Germany, this is stockender Verkehr auf der US 15 stockender Verkehr zwischen Frederick Nord und Frederick Süd. Hey, thank you for the Franz for that. Was it $5 super chat? Thank you for that. I do appreciate that. I happen to glance over and see that teal colored super chat. Thank you for that, Franz. How are things going out there in the Rocky Mountains? I love that episode of Big Bang Theory when they convince Raj that Coors comes from Philadelphia. Think about it. Rocky, Philadelphia. Oh yeah, Rocky Mountain. So funny. Anyway, so after this, I get in the raceway. I call it the raceway is the stretch after Frederick down to DC, and it's like bumper cars here with the traffic. And on a Sunday, it's probably going to be a traffic jam. Hopefully not, but it probably will be. But this is why I'm going to be later than I want to be, because I get stuck in this crap here. So anyway, thank you for that super chat. It was very kind of you. Again, somebody in my news program earlier said, well, they can't super chat. That's fine. I didn't ask folks to super chat. I appreciate the thought. If you've got the resources, that's great. I really do. I'm grateful for that. But I just ask that people watch the program and they get other people to watch the program. The more people we get, the better things are. And don't worry about it. Those things take care of themselves. If I had audiences like 2CTV,
keep left after 2 miles.
If I had audiences like 2CTV, I mean, super chats would be the last thing I'd ever even pay much attention to them. Probably, I mean, the ad revenue alone would just be astronomical. That guy is making money hand over fist. It's based in the UK, but he's making money hand over fist on advertising. And you get channels like that, and they're just getting so wealthy off of it. So anyway, I will admit this past week to being a little less than enthused about doing this broadcasting and doing my news program and doing prepared videos. I just one thing I looked at the numbers, and it's like, it's sometimes like, is the juice worth the squeeze? Are you squeezing, a dry lemon, or are you still getting some juice out of it? So yeah, no, I didn't really feel like doing some broadcasts this week, but I did them anyway. Didn't diminish the quality, just meant that I wasn't really in the mood. So anyway, but on the Refugee front, the bottom line here is that it's a process. You don't control the process. You can complain about the process. You're welcome to complain. You can be angry about the process. You're welcome to be angry about it, but you're just howling at the moon. All you can do is follow the directions they give you. And if you feel neglected, you can let me know, and I will see if I can find something out, but I don't really have access to things. But it is a little strange how sometimes I send messages to the State Department and somehow they must be reading them, because things get resolved sometimes. Or maybe it's just coincidence. Maybe there's a lot of coincidences out there. Could very well be a lot of coincidence. I'm not going to take credit for something I don't know if it's true or not. Anyway, yeah. So just now finally getting past Frederick.
In half a mile, keep left onto I-270 southbound.
That's the raceway, I-270. And there's a lot of cars out here, bumper to bumper. And it's just a 2-lane highway for most of it. Unlike being in Florida, it's 4 lanes all over the place in Central Florida, which is nice. But still, the roads are full with 4 lanes. Here, 2 lanes. Wind up in a parking lot half the time for no reason whatsoever, because people aren't paying attention. So, still not quite.
Keep left.
Yes, I know. Let's get past I-70. And I got a bus blocking the left lane up here. So here's another apartment building out here near the highway. They built a huge apartment complex. Just making tons of money off people. I guess they need the housing. But that's not near anything, so you have to have a car. All right, now because the bus won't get over, everybody's riding their brake lights. So now people are going to try to pass them on the right. Yep, that's what's happening. Oh, actually, that guy needs to turn. He wasn't paying attention. Anyway, folks, so I'm sorry that I can't answer refugee questions today, but it's not safe. It's a safety issue. You have to pay attention to the road and not to chat. So thank you for your understanding. Now, there's 4 lanes over there as they come up to Frederick, and it's full. Where are these people going?
Drive 22 miles.
Yeah, and it's 25 miles to my destination, so that's my exit, 22 miles. It's about 30 kilometers for that. So now I got 20 minutes, and I still got 24 miles. So you see that slowed me down quite a bit there. Anyway, all right, so I don't know if there's much more I can answer here or address. I'm trying to remember if I covered everything. So the last point I was talking about before I get distracted with the traffic was that the grant assistance for refugees is insufficient. It's insufficient. That's something that needs to be addressed by the administration. It really does. You're setting people for failure, but also raise all kinds of questions. How do the Somalis, the Congolese, Uyghurs, and the Rohingya come here and they're not being evicted from their apartments? How is the blind guy who died after leaving a Dunkin' Donuts or whatever it was, in Buffalo, New York, after he was dropped off by ICE, the guy who'd gotten arrested, how did he survive? He obviously wasn't working. How does he get money? He'd been here for years. He was a Rohingya. So why are South Africans being told they're being evicted? Why are South Africans being told there's no money? Why are South Africans being told we're done with you? Something's not right here. Something is not right here. I don't understand what's going on there. That's very fishy. Very, very fishy. That doesn't mean South Africans should relax and, just take it easy. You've still got responsibilities to get your documents and get to work. But still, it raises an awful lot of prescient questions. Why the heck is this happening? It doesn't make any sense. At least not to me. I like to think myself as a rather cogent person. But I watched last night Jimmy Carr with, I literally just told you, fantastic, sick, oh my God, traffic ahead of me. Fantastic game show. Jimmy Carr's hilarious. His snarky laugh and his wit. But Jimmy Carr does this, and they have guests on, and they mention things, and then they ask him, okay, what was it? And it's hilarious. And the people on the show are pretty sharp. They actually remembered most of the stuff that they heard. But this bus is still in the left lane. He has no business being there. I cannot believe this is happening. These idiots. So you got to wonder about where this guy get his driver's license from. What kind of license does he have that he's so stupid and disobeying the law and camping in the left passing lane? So people trying to pass him on the right, and they just can't find a spot up here. We're actually going under the speed limit. He's going so slowly. So I'm right on this button. I don't like being on this button, so I'm going to give him the right too. Even if I can't pass him, I'm going to stay over here. Oh, yeah, there's room. You can pass him here. You can see him in the window now as I go by him there. Dude, you're supposed to get over. Yeah, that guy is an Ethiopian or Somali who's driving that bus. So I'm not at all surprised. Stupid freaking fools. You're not in Africa. Get your ass over on the right side of the road. Oh, sorry. Yeah, this isn't Africa. Get your ass over. Where are the cops when you need them? It's supposed to be in the left lane, impeding traffic. Dead raccoon. Oof, that's nasty. But this grant money is woefully insufficient. It needs to be addressed. And it's a parking lot on that side of the road. I wish I could show it to you. People are barely moving over there. I'm going to run into that sooner or later on this side. Surprised I haven't already. And I'm surprised it's still like that on this side, on the other side. But yeah, insufficient money. People can't survive. Now, if you come with a large family, you've got a much better chance because the large family, you can pull that money. So if you've got 4 kids and 2 parents, even if they only give you the $2,000, that's $14,000. That'll pay for a deposit on a house or an apartment large enough for you to stay in. And then it also pay for a few months rent before you start to run out of money. It gives you time to keep going. But these families with no children or couples, or even more difficult, individuals by themselves, they've really got to hit the ground running. There's just not much there. So anyway, just things you need to know, folks. But you have to be humble too. A lot of people forget that you're a refugee. They act like they're an immigrant. You're not an immigrant. You didn't come here with $1 million or $2 million or $10 million. Unless you did, then great for you. But most of us don't have that kind of cash. And so most people are coming over with very little in the way of resources. You need to be humble. That's why I mentioned Salvation Army, Goodwill, yard sales, flea markets. My father, he made money go a long way. He would find so many things at yard sales, and then he'd buy them there and then resell them. And he made a good living doing that. Yep. And I doubt he ever paid taxes on any of that. If you sell for more than you buy it for, then you're supposed to pay taxes. It's called income. And I doubt my father-in-law or my stepfather. What did I say? My father-in-law, stepfather. My stepfather, Fred. The hell, I'm not paying attention. My stepfather, Fred, in Ohio, used to do that. He used to go to, now we're stopping. 4 ways. 4 ways. It's a complete stop. And the guy behind me is not paying attention. Yeah, see, that's what happened. You nearly hit me in the rear end, didn't you? Put my 4 ways on a good quarter mile before it happened. Anyway, so my stepfather, too many crickets. Yeah, Fred Bennett. Yeah. And I'm stuck in this lane now. The other lane's moving. I can't get over because they're all coming very fast in that lane. Here's a gap chance for me here. Nope, can't get there. A truck jumped out there and he's going way too fast. Oh, now everybody wants to jump in that lane. Anyway, yep, I knew I'd run into this eventually, so that's going to slow me down. I got within 20 miles, and now I'm in a parking lot. There's no alternate route around this, folks. This is just a crap you have to deal with when you go to D.C. Now, you get a few more miles down the road, and it opens up where there's like 4 lanes. But not here. Not here. I don't know if there's an accent up here. It's just probably just typical nonsense. Oh, there's construction. Anyway. So I see in the chat you're probably entertaining yourselves, and I appreciate that since I'm focusing on the road. See why I got to pay attention to the road? How it just ended like that? Going 65, which was the speed limit, and boom, 0, just like that. I learned that four-way thing in Germany. They do that when you stop suddenly, because people are going really fast in Germany. 220, 260 kilometers an hour, something stopped in front of you. That's a recipe for disaster. So Germans always put the four-ways on. My four-ways in the center console, which is a little bit of a reach from here. So it was up here on the steering column. It's not. All right, now we're limping along here, back on the road. Now I might lose the signal up in this area here because it gets wooded, and I'm not sure. I can see a cell tower from here. It's above the trees, but I'm not sure how good the signal is going forward. So if you lose the signal, I'll come back. Unless it's extended, but usually isn't extended, so for a few minutes. And there's no reason for that. So now I'm back up almost the speed limit, just like that. And I'm looking to see ahead of me if there's a reason for it. No, there's no reason. People are just going the speed limit. That's crazy. Doesn't make any sense. Traffic, that should be a science, studying traffic. Should absolutely be a science. People study traffic. But part of the problem here is that people that camp in the overtake lane, the guy I just passed who's not going the speed limit, he's well below the speed limit. I'm speed limit right now, 65, and I'm leaving him in my dust. He must be going 50, and he's in the passing lane, overtaking lane, holding up all the traffic. And now we're slowing down again, even though I saw up ahead there was no slowdown. Oh my goodness, this is just crazy. Anyway, that's how it works. Traffic, you guys, you've been it. You know how it is. Alrighty, I think that I should probably wrap up this stream, for this refugee conversation. So I apologize, it's a short one, but we hadn't done one in a couple weeks, and I want to make sure I got a chance to do it. And by the time I finish down here this evening, it'll be tomorrow morning, which is too late for South Africans. So that's why I'm doing it now. So I want to thank everybody that's been here. Be sure to hit the like button if you haven't done it already, and I will catch you later on. All right, thanks everybody. God bless and have a good evening. I'm going to focus on the road, which is what I've been doing all along, but even more hyper-focused. Cheers. Be well. Thanks, everybody. God bless.